Check, 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 check. Okay, everything sounds good. friends. All right, stream sounds good over there. Hopefully, stream sounds good to those of you who are tuning in at the moment. I am just doing a little bit of cleanup here before I am off to the races. Good. Thank you guys for chiming in. It was gorgeous last week, gorgeous this weekend. Today it became autumn. It's unpleasant and chilly out there. I like the the coloring, the changing of the leaves, but wowie, does it uh, signal other things coming? Okay, let's get some images over here. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started here. It's 1:01, and I want to be conscious of everyone's afternoon. Um, Move that scene there. Move. Where am I at? There I am. Okay. So, good afternoon. Thanks everybody for tuning into this, either now or if you happen to watch this in the future. My name is Matt Goins, the trainer for the WiscWeb team, support, um, general all around. I'll try to do a little bit of everything. Um, this afternoon's training session is going to be about just some general navigation tips, tricks. One of the things that as school kicked off and a lot of new editors were coming in, a lot of new sites were getting spun up, and a lot of people were getting added to sites and hadn't looked at some of those sites in the past. And one of the conversations that I've been having on a somewhat regular basis um, is, I just inherited this site and I really need to, do some different things with it. And so one of the conversations that I wanted to sort of share with everyone is just kind of thinking about the way that you build your navigation and the way that you build um, the flow within your site, and just some things to think about, and some tips about what you might want to think about, or some tricks that you might want to use to sort of continue to build some of that navigation. This will be informal. It's loose. I just have a bunch of thoughts written down that I kind of want to share with everybody. If you have some questions or if you have some things that you'd like me to kind of throw against the wall here and see how it looks when I start to build some of those things out, please go ahead and ask. But otherwise, I'm going to keep this somewhat informal and just kind of go with what I have written down and what I have in mind for what I want to show everybody. So, tips and tricks for navigation. So, one of the things that as you're building your site or as you're looking at revamping your site is what does the navigation mean? What is it that you're trying to accomplish when someone lands on your homepage? Whenever you go through the training, it's been a while since we've done any of the training. One of the things I always encourage people to do is when you are doing anything in relation to your website, make sure it has a purpose. Your homepage, any pages that you create, make sure that they have purpose. They're not just out there to fill space. They're not just out there because someone thinks a 3-sentence note is worthy of, a full page. Make sure that it has some significant purpose to your audience. I'll touch a little bit on search engine optimization as well as we go through this because navigation means a lot to that. It also means a lot to what are people seeing when they first land on your page, and I'll show you some analytics as well about how people flow through your site. So let's just kind of start with the basics. When you first get your site, or as you are starting to build out a site, you don't really have a menu. So where you go to create your menus is you would go to appearance and menus right there. Now, along the way, someone might get stumbled up by going to the customize area and tinkering around with the menus in here. I have never found this particular menu area to be very beneficial to me because I feel like I am seeing less of what I need to see. So I like to live out of the full appearance menus area. So then from there, as I am sort of tinkering around with this, you can kind of see that you have a number of menus to choose from up here. This is my training site, so it's got a bunch of stuff in there that either other folks have tinkered with or I have tinkered with specifically. To create a new menu, you just simply click Create a New Menu at the top here. We will title it Main Menu. Down below, there are some options for you to choose from. This automatically add new top level pages. Some people think to click this because what it does is it'll just add every new page that you create here on out to the menu area. Except it adds every new top level page, and we'll talk about child-parent relationships in a little bit, but it adds everything up here, and all of a sudden you're going to start getting some wrapping and some very weird display issues up here as well. So unless you're starting with your menu first and then building your pages out, and unless you only have like 5 or 6 pages, I don't know that this would be a very good option for people to choose because most of you are going to have very deep sites, 10, 15, 20 plus pages that you're going to want to create some level of navigation for. So the next two down are locations for your menus. So the main menu is pretty straightforward. The main menu is the menu that goes across the top of your site. It appears on every page within your site, and it is truly the main navigation source for your audience. The utility links menu is another menu that does appear on every page within your site, but it goes up here in the upper right corner. So those are the two static menu locations that you have within your site. We'll touch on footer menus as well. But these two appear at the top of the page and serve different purposes. Again, main menu is generally where your eyes are going to be drawn for all navigation throughout your site. The utility links menu is nice for those yes and type of links. I've worked with folks where we'll put like a donation link up there. We'll use that area to link off to parent programs, parent departments, or parent divisions. So this can be another way for you to add in some sort of tertiary navigational structure there of like things that are important but not site important. They're program important but not site important. So that's kind of idea to have there is you can put some things up there but also be aware of the fact that they might not easily be found as fast as you would hope for. Also, you're limited in some of the width here as well, so just be aware of that as you start to add things in. You don't want to clutter your menu area. The more you put up here, the more a person has to try to consume. So if you have a main menu and a utility links menu and you start putting other things on the page, you're going to start to overwhelm your audience with choice. So make sure that you're putting the important things in front of your audience to see. So in this case, I'm going to set this as my main menu because we want to create that that option. And then I will click create the menu. And now I will stumble. Oh, that's why. There's already a main menu. Top navigation. Do it live, they say. There we go. So now I have this one. So now to add things to it, I will just click over here. I created a bunch of pages earlier today to tinker around with this. So you just click in the checkboxes over here, you click add to menu, and that's how you add them to your menu here. Again, this is something that with new folks coming on, for those of you who have been around this for a while, some of this is redundant, some of this is just refresher, some of this is just, Matt, we know that already. I know, but I'm trying to hit everybody here. Some folks aren't aware of how their menus got created or how to create additional menus moving forward. So I'm trying to hit everything in this. So once they are over here on the right side, you can drag and drop these up, down, however it might be. You can reorder them as you see fit. So because I am a completionist, I'm going to move these into the correct order from 1 down to 7. You can also click on the little drop down here to the right and you can change the label. So the label is the visual value that a person will see when they land on this page. Labeling is text, and again, we'll touch on SEO in a little bit, but this is something that a crawler would consume. So think about your labeling because in some cases, it might be one of those generic, about, staff, program, that kind of stuff. But your labeling is also important because you want to be specific with some of the things. So, if I have a page that's about my spectrometer, I might want to label it spectrometer even though the original page title is, spectrometer resources or resources about spectrometer or something like that. That becomes a bit too long, but if I just put spectrometer up there, that's a text value that can get crawled by a search engine. So think about that. You can also remove any items from here that you might want. I'm not going to do that just because I want to finish that up. The up one, down one, under page one, and to the top, these are items where you can move this up one. I can move this down one. I can put this under spectrometer, so we'll talk about drop downs as well. Out from under spectrometer, so now it's a top level, and then to the top, obviously, would be that. So once I have all of these set, I can click Save Menu, click on over, refresh, and there is the menu that I just created. So again, nothing extravagant. This is just simple or straightforward items to touch on. this is the basics of creating the menu. This is usually what everybody is kind of starting with. So now let's expand on this. Most of you are aware of what the drop-down functionality looks like. So let's talk a little bit about how to create that, what to use when you're creating that, and again, sort of build on that idea. So one of the things to note about the UW theme, and also sort of moving into modern, not so modern, but some web design philosophies, is the UW theme itself. This is not a clickable link in as much as you go to it. It's clickable to activate the menu beneath it. And some of these decisions made are based on accessibility concerns and also usability. I guess concerns would also be another idea there. But there are a lot of reasonings behind why certain decisions were made. You might not agree with them. It might not be what you're used to, or it might not be what you really are hoping for. It is the way that the UW theme works. So you have to work within the structure that we have. From this standpoint, I have worked with users of sites where the click that leads you somewhere and takes you away from this menu is confusing. It also gets confusing on mobile devices. And again, remember, this is a mobile-friendly template. So now, if I were to click here and that takes me out of here, it's asking me to start tapping more on my phone, and it becomes a bit of a usability concern there. So these are some of the things to think about as you're adding menus to your site. Let me refresh this quick, get out of that. So again, that's the general idea about these drop downs. Is they're just meant to activate the menu beneath it, not to be a link as well for that top level there. So to create that top level, you just need to start to drag and drop items beneath a value to create that drop down menu in there. So what you can see is here is I just dragged in page 4 here to underneath spectrometer, and now I can click save menu. There we go. And then refresh. And there goes that drop down. Now obviously you'll see the issue that comes up here is now I have a spectrometer page, except I can't get to that spectrometer page anymore because it became a drop-down menu. So I'll come back around to that in a second. But this is that idea of creating sort of a navigational structure where you kind of want to draw out how do you want that flow to work within your site, or we've whiteboarded. I joke in class that I've done navigation when people bring in napkins and they kind of just written things out on napkins as well. You just have to map it out. What do you want those top level pages to be? What do you want those sub menus to be? What do you want to happen when they land on page 4? And again, we'll get into some of the options when you get on page as well. So let's get back around to this issue here, having a page that is now no longer clickable. So one of the things that you can do, okay, we'll do it this way then. Out, out, and out. All right. So what you can do is, over here on the left side, you can scroll on down to custom links. And so what we can do is we can create a menu header up there, and we'll just give it a URL of a hashtag. Essentially, we don't want that to go anywhere. So when you click on it, it doesn't do anything except for activate the menu beneath it. I'm not losing a page. I'm not sending them anywhere. I'm just simply activating the item beneath it. And then the link text could be, lab resources. And click add to menu. Again, everything that you add to the menu always goes in at the bottom, so you have to move those things to where you want them to be. And now what I can do is I can drag these items into here. And now I'm not losing a page. This is just simply a label. And again, think about SEO. Make sure you're labeling this something that is significant to not only your audience but Google. And now if I save it and refresh it, there is that. Again, basics. It's kind of the stuff we go over in training, but refresher. So that's one way of using the drop-down menus and not consuming a page. You could also use that page to be the drop-down value, but still have content associated with it, even if people aren't getting to it right away. So one of the things to think about there is the child-parent relationship between pages. So I'm going to go to pages here, and I'm going to go on down to page, let's see, let's go to page 3. And over on the right side, you have page attributes. And I can now set one of my pages, and I'm going to set page 1 as the parent for this. So now when I do that, I click Update. And I'll bounce back out to pages, and I'll only do this for a couple. Let's find page 2. There we go. And parent, page 1, update. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat over there. I'll try to get to them as I can. By the way, speaking of navigation, those of you who have many items in here, if you click on the little drop down for screen options up here, there's a pagination option up here. I have increased my pagination so that I don't have to click next as much as I used to in the past. So, you could up that to something and click apply. So it's something I wasn't aware of until like a few months ago, and I was just like, where has this been all of my WordPress life? Okay, so now I have created a child-parent relationship between page 2, page 3, and page 1. One of the things to be aware of here is also when you create those child-parent relationships, they stick with each other in the navigation of your pages list as well. So that's something that helps you sort of keep similar, site structure areas together, easier for you to kind of find. I'm finding that to be something beneficial as well. When you have similar thoughts, why not keep them together? Yes, if nothing else that anybody gets from this training, changing up the screen options has made my life much better when it comes to troubleshooting things, because I find things a lot easier. Okay, so now that we have that child-parent set up, I can go out to menus. I'm going to get rid of this guy here, and then I'm going to drop page 2 and page 3 beneath this. So here's page 1. I named it spectrometer, but just remember this is page 1. Page 2, child of this one. This doesn't create the child-parent relationship. This is just a visual structure. I go to pages to create that child-parent relationship. So I'm going to put those children beneath the parent page right here. Click Save Menu. And wait. Everything else is moving fast except for when I save the menu. Okay. So that's done. I'm going to refresh. Again, we have spectrometer here. It's not clickable if I go to page 2. However, another thing that you can think about when it comes to your navigation structure is the breadcrumb trail. And one of the things, as I was doing, I tend to look around for just general tips and tricks about this. And one of the things that I found amongst a number of those sort of, um, you know, I guess they're paid programs that teach you how to build websites better. But I mean, it just takes a little bit of research. Is show people where they are and show people how they got there. Because sometimes people click on things and they kind of forget why they were there, or they forget where they were in the whole navigation structure. That is what the breadcrumb trail will do. Is it will show you where you are and how you got there. Now, this kind of leads back into not using the a page as the drop down function right here. However, you can, if you want to make this top level page have some significant content of its own, so that if I were to go back up to page 1, I'm not looking at a blank page. Far too often when I'm working with folks who come in and they start showing me their navigation structure, they've built an about page and they've left it blank because their about page is what they're using for this drop down menu up here. Except that blank about page can be crawled by Google. And all of a sudden, Google now has in its own cache of your site a blank page that could potentially be pretty high on the search results list. We've had a couple sites that have done this, a couple of significant sites on campus that have done this, that all of a sudden people are landing on blank pages. And so you want to think about that aspect of it as well, as you can use that as a way to create either more information, or what we'll get into in a few minutes here is the visual aspect of it. We can use some other things on these pages to create that visual navigation structure. So that's using the drop-down menus there. To answer, Sharik, your question, in the base UW theme, no. It is only a secondary drop-down, or this drop down right here. There is no flyout. There's no ability to create flyouts from there, or a tertiary, or even further down. Again, it's some people like it. Some people think it's a disservice to your navigation structure. I'm on the side of I don't particularly care for it, because all it's doing is it's making me work to get to that link that I need to get to. Whereas if I just landed on this page right here, we'll talk about on-page navigation. If I land on this page right here, I can put an additional menu on this page that is more in my face and easier for me to read than trying to follow flyouts. Now that's one side of that question. The other side is one of the things that is encouraged that the UW theme doesn't do is a mega menu. And those of you who have been around WiscWeb long enough may remember the old open text sites where we did have the ability to create mega menus. We've gone away from that. Mega menu is, I don't know if I can think of a good site off the top of my head. It's probably not because that's still flyouts. I can't think of a good one right now, but basically a mega menu would be you'd click the drop arrow down and it would just be this gigantic menu of many sort of topic areas. So you think of like your e-commerce sites where you have topics that you might want to click into. That's the mega menu idea. One of the reasons why that doesn't, one of the reasons why it wouldn't work for our site or our sites is the vast majority of folks don't have that much topical area that they need to have 6 or 7 mega menu or drop down menus up here. a lot of times I think people feel, and this is an assumption by me, but it's an assumption based on conversation in the open labs, is it's I have these pages, they must be up here. No, they don't. You can use different types of menus to move people into your site. What needs to go up here is what's most important. What do you need to get them to, in an essence, immediately? Um, so that's kind of there's counter arguments for that. As Ellen said in there, the additional levels of navigation can add a little frustration to folks. Um, Being more, I guess, obvious with your labeling will help out with that. But then I'm a big fan of on-page navigation, which we'll also get into in a little bit here. But yeah, so default UW theme, only the secondary menu, the drop down. There are some sites in WiscWeb that have had tertiary menus added to them. We have moved away from that, and we encourage folks to move away from that and instead use different types of navigation structures. I mean, there's a larger topic to all the things that I'm going to talk about over the next several weeks in regards to the trainings that I'm going to do. Is I know what I like, but what I like doesn't necessarily work for what you need. And at the end of the day, you need to know your audience. You need to know what they need. They need to know what is easiest for them and what they're using your site for. That's a conversation I've had a lot of times in open labs where people are like, I really like this, let's do it. And you know, I show them their analytics, and I show them I show them analytics. If they have it set up, I walk them through their own analytics. I don't show them their own analytics. But I show them, like, people aren't getting to these pages. They're not getting to these things that you are assuming they're going to get to. And I'll show you all the behavior flow within analytics. That's a way for you to track how people are actually flowing through your site. So you can make better decisions based on the information that's in front of you. So again, that's a higher level kind of conversation of, yeah, it might be great to what you want to do, but is it great for what your audience needs? That's something that isn't easily answered. Okay, so we talked about this top level menu. We talked about the drop down menu. I don't want to belabor that one too much. So let's talk a little bit about creating on-page navigation. There are a couple of ways to do this. We're already kind of chatting about one, which is this idea of menus. So again, what you can do is you can create an additional menu, and I'm just going to call this on-page. And I'm not going to assign it to either of these because it's not going to be a main menu or a utility links menu. And so now what I can do is, obviously, you know, page 4, 5, 6, and 7, I need to navigate people to those pages within my site. So what I can do is I can create a menu. Man, everything's flying except for the menus. All right, here we go. Again, I am weird this way. Okay, so I have my menu set up. It's not assigned to main menus or anything like that. So now what I can do is I can go to Pages, and let's just do page 1 just for the ease of it all. So now what I want to do is, instead of this being a one-column layout, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the one-column layout. Let's copy my lorem ipsum. Let's add a 2-column layout. And again, for those of you who have never tinkered around with this, you can change up your column layout setup by clicking on the gear icon here. You can do some things like adding a headline. You can change the background color. Do so with caution, please. Remember accessibility and things of that nature. You can add a row ID. This has to do with jump jump links. So that's something that we can talk about, at a later time if you want to. But then also you can change the display, and by default your two column layouts are 50/50. And what I like to do is I like to have 60/40, left 60, right 40. And I'll touch on considerations there in a second. So now I've set it up to left 60, right 40. Add page element, add a text block. My son is doing some schoolwork in the background, so you may hear some competing conversation. I apologize. Okay. And then on the right side, I have a group of links page element. So this is the page element that you're going to use to add the menu. It does not come in with a menu title by default, but I could just say, lab resources there. And then what you can do is you can define this as a predefined menu. So I want to say yes to this, click on my drop down, find my menu there, and then click update. Okay, bounce out, go back up to page 1, and there we go. And you can stack these on top of each other. So you might have several items that you might want to display. And again, thinking about that whole breadcrumb idea, one of the things that you could do on like a top level page is, instead of this being 60/40, I could do 50/50, bump this out, add another group of links here. Yes. Let's call it quick links. I don't know that anything's in the quick links, but let's say update. So now I have two menus. Whoops. Should have titled it. Ooh. Lunchtime. All right, here we go. I'm going to guess that old menu doesn't have anything specific on it. Oh, it does. Oh, it has everything. Okay. So anyways, cut this to about right here, and theater of the mind. But now think about that as your top level page. So you create the about page, you create the resources page, and then from there you could use the parent page of all of these resource subpages to be like your main navigation structure for that area. And now you can create some additional menuing there. So again, if you have 5, 10, 15 pages, you don't have to try and squeeze 5, 10, 15 pages into one of these drop downs. You don't want to overwhelm them with choice. Instead, what you could do is you could get them to where you need them to be, and then once they're on there, kind of break it up into an easier to consume visual navigation structure. And I'm going to expand on that visual idea when we start talking about the featured content blocks and also the post listing idea as well. But again, the general idea that I'm hoping to convey to all of you is just that you're not stuck here. This isn't your only option for a menu. You can also put them on page. You can put a footer menu down here for like more important links down there. So don't feel like you're confined to this drop down and you have to keep throwing as much as you can into there. Honestly, you could have no drop downs up here, have them land on page 1, and now you can create some context, you can add some content, and you could create a further navigation structure to move people into your site. So that's the idea of using the menus as the visual aspect of this. But let's talk about true visual sort of a navigation idea. And so to give you guys an idea of what this would look like is, and I'll expand on this a little bit, is this. So this is arts.wisc.edu. It's the Arts on Campus site. This is a WiscWeb site, and they use, this is their main page, and obviously it's arts, so it's easy for them to, I shouldn't say it's easy for them, it's logical for them to do this. Um, but they created a visual sort of just layout for getting further down into their content. And then some of these are also external links. But this is another idea for those of you who have topic areas where you might want to add some additional content, but you don't want to try and hammer it all in on one page, but you need people to be aware of that type of stuff. So to create this idea, I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep editing page 1. I'm going to remove this layout. Let's see. Better to have, so Shelly's question, better to have a longer page 1 with separate sections for each topic, or page 1 with the on the page menu to take you to the separate pages? Depends on the amount. I'm not a huge fan of like constant scrolling. I understand that like your home page you might have a need to have a lot of that content on there, but mainly the reason why the how you would look at that to answer that question would honestly be to think about your mobile audience. How much do you want a mobile audience scrolling on their phone? Because this will become this. So it's again, that's a question that's better answered for you to look at what your audience needs. From my own personal standpoint, I don't like a lot of scrolling on a page. So what I would do is I would just, if I have a top level page that is like the parent of every sub page beneath it, I would make that top level page short, sweet, to the point, keep moving them into the content. But the reason that I would use the top level page is that I can create the context for it. I can add a little bit of content in here to say, for more information regarding the lab resources, please use the menu below. For more information regarding applying to our program, please use the menu below. So I can create a little bit of expectation and in some cases anticipation for the content that they're going to see as they move down into the content below. So that's kind of a vague way of saying it. I'm giving you what I think, but there's no clear right answer. The wrong answer simply is based on what does your audience need. If you're trying to throw something that they're not really making use of, you're going to lose them about halfway down the page. So that's more of knowing who your audience is and knowing what they need. Okay, so get back to this guy. So I'm going to add a content layout, 3-column layout. Let me hide this over here. And so the page element that we're going to use for this is the featured content block. I'm going to add that here. I'm actually going to add all 3. And so you have a couple of options here. Do you want to autofill from site, or do you want to enter your own content? So autofilling, what it does is it allows you to choose a page or a post to link to. And again, for those of you who are going to have very deep page structures, use the old search friend here. And so let's link out to page 4, page 5, and 6. And there we go. So we have that set up there, and so now if I just click update, I just want you to see what this will look like before we start really diving into what it will do. So now I will refresh this guy. And so this is what happens to start with. And I just wanted to make sure I pointed out this is the excerpt of the pages that I'm linking to. So this is something that we'll get into in a second here about how you can kind of tinker around with this, but you have to be aware of this because the excerpt is automatically generated text from the pages that you are building. It is automatically generated based on the content that exists on the page. You can update it as you see fit. And again, I'll show you that in a second because that kind of leads into another way of creating some navigation. But this is the basics of it, is you create this grid, you link out to things, and it can have text in it. Now, I don't have to have any text in there if I don't want. I can update this to be, no enter the custom, but I also need to know my link as well. Because when you change it to entering your custom content, I need to get those links because it doesn't allow me to choose internal items there. So let's kind of go from there. So I'm going to do no enter custom content. So let's go page 4. This is the page I want to send you to. The link, I will copy that link location and I will paste it into there. And then let's add an image. Winter is coming. And then I'll leave these two alone and click update. Come on.
I just type in O land.
Okay. So now this changes it up. You can see this image is set. These two are still the way that I set them up. Again, just showing this because I want you to be able to see this guy right here. I can change this up if I need to from that standpoint. So some of the concerns, some of the things that I've seen in Open Labs regarding this kind of layout. First and absolutely foremost, when you use the featured content block, you really are sort of encouraged to create this visual setup. The problem is not every image that you throw into here will be the same height and width that you are wanting to go into here. So the featured content block image requirements are 900 pixels wide by 600 pixels high. So you can see it is a wider image than it is a taller image. So you want to start at 900 pixels wide by 600 pixels high. That way you can keep those images the same size so that you don't get thrown off by having one image that's this big and then a second image that's only this big. Because again, one of the things you need to think about is consistency. You want these to sort of all be the same size so you're not thrown off by the height or the amount of text beneath it. I do have a training video out there. I need to get it out there a little more, easily accessed to walk people through how to use Photoshop to get to those very specific requirements. I'll do it quickly here just so you guys can see what it will look like. But in Photoshop, if you choose the cropping tool, you can change this to be a width by height by resolution option. And now I can specify I need it 900 pixels wide by 600 pixels high and 72. And so now you'll see it is constraining it to that specific area. So this is already set that way, but this is how you can choose what you need out of a particular image. So maybe I wanted to crop out more of just Bucky here, so I need to kind of play around with that 9 by 6. So there we go. Now I can get rid of all of this other stuff, and I've gotten just Bucky there. And then you just save it as a new image there. And that's it. That's, you know, um, uh, all of the various page elements that include images have very specific height and width requirements. If you go out to our knowledge base, it is, well, it's in our frequently, it's one of ours, but here is the KB doc that walks you through this process. It is 73864, and it just walks you through this whole process of how do you crop using Photoshop, and then also at the bottom I have these values in here. Thumbnails are 150 by 150. That's that value there. Okay. So again, that's just one thing to be aware of here. Second thing to be aware of here is there is no right number of characters to put into here. It's all going to be trial and error because some words might be longer than others and will wrap down to the next line. So you're just going to have to eyeball it and try to make it as close as possible to being the same amount. That's really it for that. That one is a struggle, and I know it's a struggle, but there is no specific right way to put it because it's just some words will be longer. You just have to kind of eyeball it to get it right from there. And then to tinker with these here, these excerpt values, if you go to a particular page and you edit the page, the excerpt field is, I believe for most folks, down at the bottom. And this is where you can update it to say all right. Pleasant thoughts by me. So let's get back out to page 1 here. And now I have updated that particular excerpt field, and you can see it right there. So any questions on using the featured content block? You can stack these. Obviously, you can see how Arts did it. So Arts, this is a bit of a customized setup, the way that they have it. You can see the way that mine is. Mine's going full page across. But same idea. Okay. I'll let questions filter in, but I just want to keep tootling along because I do have some things I want to make sure that I get to in this. Okay, so the last specific sort of layout idea that I had, or navigation idea that I had, has to do with a site that I helped build several years ago. Did I get it right on the first try? I got it right on the first try. Okay, and it's the Havens Rights Center. So what this site is they, I'll give it to you from a standpoint of the building of it. I don't know what the actual program fully entails. But what they wanted to do with this site was they wanted to highlight their visiting scholars program, so lecturers that they invite to campus, and then also a social cinema series, so movies that they play on campus for various I guess topics. So one of the things, I'm actually going to zoom out, so if this is too small I apologize, but I want to kind of show it to you in its full view, is they wanted to create an area where there are post lists that allow you to highlight an upcoming topic, an upcoming item. And if you know, post lists are built a certain way where they consume content from the posts area. And so he has three of them on here, and they all are built a different way. Um, if you go to the actual subpage about a particular item, you'll notice here's that same. This isn't the same list. He hasn't updated this one yet, but the same list would go here. He's only updated the front page one that is here. So, da, 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 da. So Claire's question actually is a good question. Um, Going back quickly to um, the featured content block idea and asking about could it be used with icons instead of photos? Sure. However, oh, we have broken images. All right, there they go. Um, you could, but a lot of times graphics or icons, you're going to have to watch out for how big they are. And if if we're remembering, this has to be a very large image, whereas these icons might not come in as such a large item. This is a visual menu that uses those icons. These are just text blocks, and the icons in them are linked to. This is a three-column layout, three text blocks. They are stacked on top of each other. This is just an image that is the icon, and it is a clickable link. And these are set to the the style. There. Okay. So that's there. You could, yes, you don't have to have actual images. It could be icons. It could be any sort of graphics that you put into there. Just be aware of the fact that you have to watch out for the size of those images, because if it's starting with a small image and it stretches to a very large image, it's going to look bad. It will. There's no other way to say it other than it will be noticeably grainy, pixelated. It will not look as good as what you want. Okay. So how we do this setup here. So in this case, it's pretty easy. It's a post list. I'm not logged in here. Do, 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 do. Okay, there we go. I'm in. So back out. Edit the page. So I'm going to scroll on down to show you what this setup is. All right. These are the accordion panels there. We'll get to that in a second here. But essentially, these are just posts by category. Here's the category itself. The unfortunate way that WordPress does this is regardless of the date that you put on the actual posting itself. So like in this particular post, if I were to say, this post was created on, if I say it's published on a particular date, it doesn't change the order in which it will appear in the list. It'll just show as that's the date it was posting on. And you can future date things, but it doesn't, when you're trying to create a list, it's still going to be the order in which you're publishing them. So what he does is he actually puts them in reverse chronological order so that they show up in the appropriate chronological order within the listing itself. So he created this one first and then went up the line here. So now this was his most recent one, even though it's So this one's first, even though it's the furthest away. So that's just I'm even confusing myself trying to explain how this works. He's putting them in reverse chronological order so that when they appear in this list, they are um, showing up in the correct order that they're going to happen. So each one's a post. You can click on the post itself. What you'll notice is here is an image to the left of it, and he's using their actual like profile photos for that, and this is what's called the featured image of a post. But then when you click on this post, you don't see that particular image, and I'll show you why you don't want to do that in a second here. But again, he's just using these posts as informational ideas, and he's setting up the navigation on the main page using that post list. So how this would work is you would create your post. You could go over to the bottom right here and you could set featured image. And we'll go Bucky here. And then I'm going to update this. And then let's edit this page that we've been tinkering with the whole time. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a one column layout here at the top, and we'll just add page element. And again, we're working with post listings now. So let's just say, upcoming stuff. Show featured image. Right now, we'll just stick with all posts. I don't need to worry about that so much. Show excerpt. I could show post date if I want to. I don't need to. I could show the more posts link. This could be, more information. Or no, let's say, upcoming events. And then the more post link URL could be, the whatever URL you want to land them on. Again, you could think of this as I want to send them to that parent page that is the full, the full sort of navigation layout. All right, so let's update. Yeah. Let's kind of get rid of some of these things up here. I'm going to start to confuse myself with 30 open tabs. Nope. Need to be on page 1. There we go. So here's that post list right there, and there you can see there's the featured image right there, and then these are all of the excerpts that I'm showing as well. You can see when I'm getting loopy when I'm creating things, I start to get silly. So if I click on this, this is why you want to watch out for using the featured content image on a post as well. Is by default, the featured content image goes right at the top of that post. And so it becomes this large and in some cases very obnoxious image at the top where you don't want that to be that way. So how you would remove that is you just click hide image from post. And now that I've done that, it's gone. I don't need to worry about that. But it would be still here. So this works for posts. I'm showing you, this is basics about using posts to move people into like your news articles, your blogs, and things like that. However, you can also use the post list as a way to link to pages as well. And so kind of coming back around to what Claire asked is this would be something maybe to think about using for like icons or graphical type things. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and I might lose some of you. I know I might because I'm going to start doing some things that probably some of you don't ever want to tinker with or have never thought about tinkering with, whatever it might be. I am never shy about anybody reaching out to me in Teams, emailing me, whatever it might be. If after this you have questions about like, oh, that was really cool, I want to do this, or could you kind of go over that with me again, I'm more than happy to have those chats. So now what we can do is I can go down and let's use page 4 as our starting point. And here's all my lorem ipsum yada yada in there. And so now what I can do is I can set a featured image. I hope this works. And also set an excerpt. All right. So obviously I put some HTML in there. Again, that's kind of what's going on here. This is bolded text right here. This is bolded text right here with a line break and then some other content in there as well. All right. So now if I go over to here, let's edit this page and let's select individual posts. And it says select individual posts, but I can also, page 4, add pages to that list. Show the featured image, show the excerpt. I don't want to show the more posts link because I'm using this as navigation. There's not more for you to see past what I'm using as part of this navigation. So I'm going to add a few more in here just so that we can kind of show what that will look like. So let's go page 5 and then let's go page 6 and then let's update it. So again, this is in a one column, so this isn't what I would recommend using in a one column, but this is kind of that idea. So sort of to Claire's question, I don't have any icon files to throw up or icon image files to throw up into my media library right now, but this is an image of a calendar, an email image, things like that. And so this is what we do over here. These are pages that can be created and linked off to create some additional navigation layouts as well in a multi-column layout. So again, in this case, what I'm thinking of when I'm showing you this is the group of links menu is bulky. There's a lot to it when you are looking at it. So if I look at this, this is a group of links menu right here. It's bulky. It has a lot of padding to it. You might not want to do something like that. Well, you could also create sort of obviously you can change this title to something other than news, but you could use this idea as well, and you could put some icons in there if you wanted to. You could tinker around if you wanted to with a little bit of the HTML in there. I caution against that. Be comfortable if you're going to tinker with that, but that kind of idea right there. But again, now it links off to something there. So it tightens up that navigation a little bit. So yeah, and so coming back up to what Shelley asked earlier about having longer pages and things like that, this is one way where you can still create sort of a visual navigation, but you can tighten it up a little bit. You can have a little more context to it with the by using that excerpt in there. One of the things that I one of the things that I try to encourage folks to watch out for is having a lot of white space on a page as well, because it's wasted space. Now, obviously, these are accordion panels, so there's some expansion there. But if not, this is kind of wasted space here. So again, that idea of tightening up that structure so that you can, put a little bit more on there to tinker with. So again, just to kind of review the steps that I did there on the actual page itself, and it's a page, it's not a post, it is a page that you've created. On the page itself, what I did was I edited the featured image. I added a featured image to it, and I also edited the excerpt field down here to add some information. Now, again, this is pretty simplistic, but just kind of think about what else you could kind of do with a little bit of space down there. Don't overdo it. Because again, you're going to kind of throw off what you see here. This is a little bit, this is a lot. Try and keep them consistent. And then over here, I'm just choosing individual posts and I'm throwing them into there. And again, pages instead of posts, think of it that way. And I'm showing the featured image and I'm showing the excerpt. And that's it. And I have now created some visual navigation. To Kelly's question, clicked on a featured image, pick a random image. So for posts, that featured image is used not only in what I'm talking about right now, which is the listing aspect of it, but for a post, the featured image would also appear at the top of the post if you didn't hide it from the post. So it is a built-in default function of posts. For pages, it doesn't have a specific use other than now what I'm showing you. Yes, if you wanted to use a post list to create some navigation rather than a menu to create some navigation, you could create pages, assign a featured image, and then use this post list idea to now create some visual functionality to it. But again, this was a site that I helped build several years ago now. It's probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I've always just thought that this was such a neat way of tightening up some of that navigation on a page. And again, just wanting to show you guys some different ways of doing that. Again, you can throw in any questions that you have in the list there of other things to think about. Those were the big 3 topics that I really wanted to go over in regards to what you can do within the theme itself. So creating menus and using on-page navigation, like we did with this initial page 1 with having those menus on there. The featured content block, which I think is just the featured content block is I like it because it does create a visual, engaging way to add some navigation to your site. But again, you really have to have the images for it to work this way. You can't just throw an image up there and say that's good enough. I don't so jokingly say this in the trainings. If you want someone to be critical of your site, I'm more than happy to be the one for you to reach out to, and I'll tell you what works and what doesn't work. Images that are pixelated, that are um, that are stretched too much, that's just something that you want to avoid because the visual is what's going to pull a person in, and that's the kind of thing that would push a person away. Is just images that are just not, they're rough images basically for that. Okay. And then using the post listing, using this idea for creating that navigation structure as well. Breadcrumbs, I talked about. Clear labeling. Make sure that you use good labeling up here. Be pointed about what the content is within the page itself when you are generating those labels there. On page navigation, we talked about, I'm just looking through my notes, I'm sorry. Planning your navigation out, we talked about, that whole, draw it out before you put it into your site as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about, I've shown you how to do some of the navigation ideas, but let's talk a little bit about what you can do on your end to know whether or not your navigation is working, to know whether or not you need to take a look at how people are moving through your site. And so let's talk a little bit about the analytics aspect of this. And if you're not using Google Analytics on your site, I do strongly recommend that you put it onto there, if for nothing else, to just know what pages people are going to on a regular basis. All right, let me just bounce out of here and go down to, nope, that's not the one I wanted to be in. That's this one. Nope, uncheck all and save. Get out of there and go to there. Okay, so okay, so this is the WiscWeb site. Again, if for nothing else, for analytics, sorry, I got a little space there. To know where people are going within your site, what pages are most prominent. You can get further down into this if you go into your reports. I'm not going to do a Google Analytics training. I've got a couple of those out there, and I'm more than happy to meet with people. But how long are people spending on your page? How many? This is their first page that they're interacting with. How they're leaving this page without interacting with any other aspect of your site. So there's a lot to Google Analytics, but mostly it's important for you to know whether or not the stuff that you're doing is actually being consumed by who you hope it is. But a few things that you should use Google Analytics for your own purposes of content strategy and also navigation structure. First, if you don't already have it set up, you want to make sure that you use the Google Custom Search Engine functionality, which is this is the default site search up here. You can attach Google Custom Search to it, and then by adding in Google Custom Search, you can also use the Google Analytics site search function to see what people are searching for when they come to your sites. So obviously over the last 7 days, tables I've had a search, and World War II maybe. I don't know why you're looking for that on my site. Let's take a peek out to the it.whisk site. So here are the top searched over the last 7 days, top searched items over the last 7 days. So now, again, this is content related, but also you think about it from a navigation structure. Are you not being as obvious as you need to be in the labeling of your links up top there? Is it difficult for people to get to it if they have to search for this stuff on a regular basis? it.whisk isn't a fair comparison here, because obviously people are going to land on the homepage and just search. It's the easiest thing to do for that site. But this would just give you an idea of whether or not people are finding what they need to find. So this is internal. This is site-specific searching. The other aspect of this is if you go under acquisition and then search console and queries, the other thing that you should think about attaching to your site is Google Search Console, because Google Search Console will allow you to integrate analytics into Search Console, and you get to see what search terms people are using out at Google to then eventually get to your site. And again, content related, but also navigation becomes an important part of this as well, because if they now land on my site, how are they moving through my site? Am I being obvious with my labeling, etc.? So again, those are two things that are more content related, but they do have a hand in how you're setting up the navigation structure of your site. So Google Custom Search Engine, Google Search Console, we have KB Docs out there for them. And again, if you really have questions about that stuff, you can reach out to me and we can build on that idea. But then lastly, what you can take a look at is under behavior, there is behavior flow. And I like looking at behavior flow because what it does is it allows me to see when they land on a particular page. Let's see if I can find one. Nope. Box. I don't know the IT site. Oh, nope. I don't know the IT site as well as I know the WiscWeb site, so I'm going to bounce back over to WiscWeb just for my own sanity. So behavior and behavior flow. The reason why I like using it.whisk is because it has the traffic. WiscWeb doesn't really have the traffic. Okay. So again, now you can take a look at landing page. Under behavior flow, you can look at what page are they starting at, or what page do you want to start at. So I can click on this one and highlight the traffic through here. And now I can start to take a look at where do they start? They start at home. Where are they going to? So they're getting to a page not found error. I'll explain more on that in a second because that's a bit misleading for that error. So then second interaction. So now what you can basically see is if they're starting here, they're going here, and then where are they going afterwards? Well, they're most prominently the third page that they go to is back to home, and then their final one is one of these. So you can kind of take a look at what is the flow of your audience through your site? Are they actually getting to the pages, and are they following sort of that navigational setup? Because I just talked to you a whole bunch about how to create some on-page navigation and how to move people through your site. That's great that you know how to do it. Is it actually working now, or do you need to look at different ways to also use your navigation? Because this will tell you whether or not they're actually flowing through your site the way that you anticipated them to. So this is just something that I think is pretty beneficial, just from make decisions based on information from that standpoint. Just so just because the error page is the most prominent page here, the reason why the error page is the most prominent page for WiscWeb is because you need to be VPN'd in when you get to WiscWeb before you click the login button up here. And if you're not, it kicks you to a 403 error page. So that's why that is our highest visited page right now, because of the fact that it's people getting to that 403 error page because they're trying to log in to WiscWeb before they are connected via VPN. So okay, I'll kind of just let that sit for a second or two. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask them. Anything to sort of demo or discuss or reiterate if you want me to. But again, the big things that I just kind of wanted to get out of this training session was think outside of the box. You're not confined to up here. So, any questions? Otherwise, if we're good, that is where I'm going to end the training. I know I said we go to 3. I gave myself that buffer because I never know how much time I might take on a particular topic, or if a question will throw me off into an entirely um, tangent way. But thank you all for tuning in. We've got the other one coming up. Um, please hold. I think it's Thursday, Wednesday. I don't know. I live day to day right now. Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. I'm doing the gravity forms training there as well. So we'll um, uh, we can reconvene then. Um, Hannah, a menu like this was created. What menu? Just to clarify, what menu do you want me to show? How it was created. Um, I'll really quick since I'm on this. Wait for Hannah to answer that, but I'll show you the setup for our that 3 column layout that we have on our page. Again, 3 column layout. These are all text blocks. These are just images that are linked, and these are just icon images that exist out there. And then they have the apply UW box style assigned to them. Oh, I know what else I wanted to show. This just came into my knowledge this week, but there are a couple of sites out there that are like icon sites, open source icon sites, and this is one material.io slash. I'll just paste this uh, into the chat there for people to have access to. But that's one that I came across. It's icons. So there's a whole slew of them there. So that's one, and then the other one that I stumbled across was materialdesignicons.com.
This is a difficulty challenge.
So again, you can see there are lots of different um, lots of different icons out there to use. Um, uh, as I'm showing you all of this, also please, oh please, please, for the love of everything that I can beg of you, um, make sure that you are using alternative text. So even if you are using icons, yes, they are decorative. So in most cases, because they might be considered decorative, you don't have to use alt text with them. But far too often, I see people using images without alt text in them. And when you are creating navigation and you're using images to start creating some of that navigation, make sure that you are assigning alt text appropriately so that you can help those who cannot actually see the visual representation. They can at least experience it using the text readers. So.
They usually
Uh, but yeah, I these just came across my I guess my information last week, maybe a week before. I don't remember where, but I was like, wow, here are a bunch of icons that you could grab.
do. So go to Roblox,
So
join.
okay. Again, that's it. That's all I've got. Hannah, if you could clarify what menu you wanted me to show how to do. Um, Otherwise, that's all I've got, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, reach out to me either through Teams, through email. I'm more than happy to chat with all of you after the fact. If you have some ideas and you're like, "How do I do this?" We can spitball together. So, thanks everybody, and I'll talk to you later this week at the Gravity Forms training.